Lewis Hamilton's victory in China, and he takes a 7-point lead into the final round of this World Championship in Brazil in 2 weeks' time. And he's come through a huge examination this weekend, and so too has his family and his McLaren team as well. But Ferrari filling the next 2 positions through Massa and Raikkonen, so while the champagne is flowing for Lewis Hamilton, maybe the Constructors' title is slipping away from McLaren, but they don't mind. It's been Hamilton's day in Shanghai. And this is the championship table we take into that final round. And Lewis Hamilton, the full race victory from start to finish to take the maximum 10 points and take that 7-point lead into Sao Paulo. Felipe Massa allowed pass by Kimi Raikkonen to collect the extra 2 points for second. So Hamilton, Massa, Raikkonen, then another great drive from Fernando Alonso. Nick Heidfeld in 5th. Robert Kubica said goodbye to his championship hopes with a 6th place finish from 11th on the grid. Timo Glock and Nelson Piquet completed the point scorers today. And this is the championship table, that 7-point lead for Lewis Hamilton. The 2008 Drivers' Championship lies between 2 men, Lewis Hamilton and Felipe Massa. McLaren against Ferrari, exactly the same situation as we had in Sao Paulo a year ago, but will it be Lewis this time? Before we get Mark's views once again, let's hear the views of the race winner in the press conference.
I hope as a team we can pull through and, yeah.
Dream is now agonisingly close for Lewis Hamilton, isn't it?
It's very close indeed, but it's still not quite there, and that's the worry that we're all going to have at the moment. Just seeing what goes into the next race in Brazil, because it could be all over come the first turn. But that certainly wasn't the case today, was it?
Winning, though, is never easy, as Lewis said in there, but this was about as straightforward a victory as he could ever hope for. The only moment of doubt in our minds was that start after what happened in Japan last weekend, but this time he got it absolutely right.
I have to say, I thought it'd be a lot stronger performance from the Ferraris. Both the Ferraris actually getting off the start line, but textbook stuff by Lewis Hamilton. Got the grip when he needed it, fired off into the lead. And Kovalainen was the only guy who made a little bit of impact, just getting by Alonso there and trying to make an impression on the Ferrari of Massa. But he didn't quite get enough done. A couple of guys truly there getting caught up with Bourdais. But really for Lewis, just a copybook start, what he would expect to do every time from here on in if he can.
Heikki Kovalainen through there, looked as if he might have a big part to play, but there was some brake damage there or something for Heikki.
I mean, you know, we've talked about Heikki Kovalainen and we've gone throughout the season. We've seen him put in some good performances, but when it counts during a race, he's a little bit adrift to Lewis Hamilton. And unfortunately, you look at the lap times today, at some times in some laps, he was a second slower than Lewis. That's not what McLaren need for the Constructors, and it's not what Lewis needs to try and win the world title.
But Lewis, I mean, to his credit, gave the impression that he was holding back. Any moments of doubt at all from the start through to his run through to the finish?
Well, I think there was a couple of times when he was pushing extremely hard, and you can just see Lewis Hamilton here, just gets the rear of the car out, slides it around. You know, at this point, we all felt maybe the tyres a little bit adrift, but no, it's not that. It's actually him pushing as hard as he can, just getting that performance out of the car and out of the tyres. And his lap time, very strong, lap after lap after lap. A couple of times the Ferrari was a little bit quicker, but very, very rarely.
And a significant pace advantage over the Ferraris, although Kimi didn't have much luck in trying to get past the likes of Fisichella.
Well, he didn't have a lot of luck, no, but saying that, Lewis Hamilton had already gone by Fisichella before Raikkonen came up on him, and to be very honest with you, I don't think this would have made much difference whatsoever in the race. You know, there's a little gesture from Raikkonen, but he probably lost about a second and a half only.
It was never in any doubt that Kimi was going to surrender that second place to Felipe Massa, but there was a certain amount of embarrassment about it in that press conference, it seemed.
I mean, you know, just look at it. It just waters up behind him. It's very easily done. There's, you know, a huge differential in speed here. And for me, at the end of the day, the telling tale is when these guys had made the change on the racetrack, Raikkonen then went back on after this to start putting in very strong laps again. So there was nothing wrong with his car. We can't hear that. We don't want to hear that. We can just see a change position for the team points.
And although team orders are meant to be illegal, McLaren will have no complaints about that. Heikki Kovalainen might be required to do the same thing in Sao Paulo. But what actually is the protocol between drivers to organise something like that?
Well, they must have some kind of instruction or some understanding before they go into the race. But saying that, you know, it's a big if, and we'll have to wait and see whether that does come into play in Brazil. I hope not.
OK, we might learn more from Felipe Massa's race engineer, Rob Smedley. We can hear from him now.
Well, Rob, what was the story of Ferrari and Felipe's race today?
Oh, it wasn't too bad, but you know, we were just a little bit outclassed by McLaren and Lewis especially. You know, I mean, I take my hat off to the kid. He's done a great job. He's driven a really good race, no mistakes, and he's won the race by like 16 seconds or something.
Ferrari was the fastest car though in Singapore and Japan. What happened here?
Well, you know, I mean, you come to different tracks, you have different surface, different tyre temperatures, you know, different downforce requirements from the cars, and it can swap. I mean, as we've seen many times this year, it can swap. But you know, you also have to put it down, is the McLaren the fastest car, or is Lewis just the quickest driver? Because if you look at him compared to poor old Heike, you know, he completely outclassed him this weekend.
Is it over for you?
No, not at all. It's never over till it's over, you know what I mean? I'm a North of England boy, and I'll keep pushing right till the end, as will all the lads on the car and Felipe. You know, it's not over till it's over.
Thanks, Rob.
And certainly the Constructors' Championship isn't over for Ferrari. They're in a very strong position to retain the title they won last year. But for Lewis Hamilton, he will settle for the Drivers' Championship. Ferrari may well take the Constructors in Sao Paulo in 2 weeks' time. But Mark, a final word. How do you see the task for Lewis in Brazil? As you say, it is still in the balance.
Well, I've been thinking about it, Steve. You come to China, you can pretty much buy a copy of everything in this country. I think Lewis can afford to have the real thing, but I think he'd be very happy with a copybook performance of today. If he does what he done today in Brazil, it's done and dusted.
Felipe Massa last year was inspired in front of his home crowd. What might be the effect on Felipe of going there with so much pressure and expectation this time?
A lot of pressure on his shoulders, but a big lift from the home crowd. Very passionate, the Brazilians, about the motor racing. And Massa will go in there feeling strong, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
And he and Kimi Raikkonen will work as a partnership again, so perhaps in a way we ought to assume race victory for Felipe.
Well, we'll see something from Ferrari, I'm sure of that, and we know that they'll be going there feeling confident to a point, but I think Lewis Hamilton in today's mode is unstoppable.
And Heikki Kovalainen, from the McLaren point of view, it'd be wonderful if he could just raise his game a little for Brazil.
I'd like to see that, just so he goes out at the end of the season on a strong performance. He's got a whole season next year to make sure he does something different and lines up with Lewis.
OK, Mark, thanks very much indeed. A wonderful performance from Lewis Hamilton today. Victory in China, and all our hopes are sky high for what he might achieve in Brazil in 2 weeks' time. We will, of course, have live coverage in a fortnight's time, but we've got more to come from here in China today. A full race rerun of this Chinese Grand Prix with further reaction to what we've seen at 2:55, with highlights also later tonight as well. Football highlights from the championship immediately follows us now on ITV1. And we've got more football on Tuesday, back to the Champions League on ITV1. We're at Old Trafford for the big game between Manchester United and Celtic. ITV4 will have live coverage of Arsenal at Fenerbahce. But then Brazil in 2 weeks. Late afternoon coverage of qualifying on Saturday, 3:10, and the race build-up on Sunday afternoon from 4. It's nearly there for Lewis Hamilton. Can he make sure in Sao Paulo?